officially the weekend. This is me doing a video in almost 2 months, I think. I haven't done a video in forever. So I decided to, because things have slowed down a little bit. I still have things I'm working through, but I was like, let me go ahead and record an actual video. I was about to do the podcast, but yeah, I was just like, I still have my YouTube channel and the Instagram and the Daily Motion and all that stuff. So I was like, at least let me go ahead and put up a video. So here I am. For those who may not know that are watching this, obviously, I'm KC Phoenix, host of the KC Phoenix Show. Before I go any further, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. I might have to get up and turn on the air conditioning in a minute because it's starting to get warm in here. It always gets warm when I start talking. When I'm sitting in the chair and I start talking, it gets warm. But yeah, which is actually cooler than it has been, so that's a good thing. But yeah, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. This podcast is carried on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Overcast, Bullhorn, Amazon Music, Audible, and several other podcasting platforms. Please feel free to listen to this podcast on whatever platform is most convenient for you. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. I'm not really that social on social media. The one I probably use the most is Instagram. I quit using Twitter as much. I usually do a lot of retweets on Twitter, usually mostly Lil Kim related stuff because for those who are new to the show, I'm a huge Lil Kim fan. I adore Lil Kim. She's awesome. And I do a lot of stuff with retweets pertaining to that. But as for tweeting any other things on the Twitter page, it's not that active. And same thing with Facebook. It's like I put some stuff up from time to time, but really not that active. It's just more or less the episodes that I put up for the show on Facebook. Instagram, yeah, don't really post pictures, but I do like videos and pictures, and sometimes I upload like the episode picture, obviously to let people know the episode is up, but nothing outside of that. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting everything as I'm going into this. For those who are new listening to this podcast, because one thing I noticed, which by the way, shout out to the Middle East, by the way, I did not know I was, look, I didn't know I was, I did not think my personality would be a Middle Eastern. I'm shaking the camera because the camera's on for those watching this, the camera is on the desk and my elbow's on the desk too. And as I'm trying not to shake the camera with my elbow, but I digress. The whole Middle East thing, I kid you not. I logged into my podcast because I told you my podcast is bigger than my video presence, which is why usually I do podcast only episodes. And I happened to log in and I was looking and I was like, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, what? And I see these countries pop up because for the podcast, when you log in, it pretty much tells you what the estimate in regards to your demographics, like how many female listeners, how many male listeners, what countries they're in, what are the age brackets, things like that. And there's a ton of different countries. I actually have it up in front of me. So, like, of course, the United States is number one. A little bit over 90%. 91% of my listeners come from the United States, which shout out to the U.S. Obviously, I'm a U.S. citizen. So shout out to the United States. However, I have listeners, whether they're longtime listeners or whether they're listeners that just drop in every now and then or just drop in once and then don't drop in again, that listen to the podcast, whether they drop in just to hear, maybe their tarot card reading, or they just drop in to hear Wacky News Weekends or something about sports or whatever. So, but as for listeners, I literally have listeners all over the world: Canada, Russia, Australia, United Kingdom, Spain, Ireland, Germany, Hong Kong. Shout out to Hong Kong. I love Hong Kong, by the way. Would love to visit sometimes, but that's another story for another day. Romania, South Africa. Shout out to South Africa. My parents, they visited South Africa 2019, I think it was. And actually, my parents just got back from Iceland, and they had a good time. But my mother, she loved South Africa. Dubai is still my dad's favorite place, which United Arab Emirates, which, by the way, I have listeners there too. Brazil. I told you I want to go to Brazil for many reasons. Estonia, Sweden, Austria, Hungary, Bahamas. I love the Bahamas. I've been to the Bahamas quite a few times when I used to take cruises all the time many years ago. Serbia, Turkey, again, Middle East, India. Shout out to India as well. Sudan, Portugal. So I literally have listeners of my podcast all over the world. And when I was noticing all the Middle Eastern countries popping up, I was like, that's interesting. Okay, I'll take it. So yeah, shout out to the Middle East. All right. And trying to think where to start. Okay, for those who are new, let's go ahead and go over some things right quick. So, and for my longtime listeners, I won't have to bring you up to speed. You already know this stuff. For those who are new, this podcast is lifestyle, entertainment, news, and sports, obviously, on that part. However, there is a huge interest in my tarot card readings and things like that with spiritual stuff. That is why I put them up. That's why a lot of things that you see are related to tarot card readings. Also, it's about lifestyle, self-improvement, bettering yourself, all that good stuff, yada, yada, yada. I still enjoy talking about sports, even though I don't really watch sports, which makes it more interesting for me, because I'm able to learn about things in sports by covering sports when I do talk about them. That's why I do it. And then, of course, with the news and Wacky News Weekends and all this stuff, those are other parts of the show. But let me go back into the tarot card stuff and things like that. I read energy. For those who don't know, my astrological sign is Cancer. And that out of all the signs, it's pretty much in agreement. Usually they say it's about a tie between Cancer and Pisces, but people usually say Cancer is the most intuitive sign. Cancer is we have a sixth sense about things, and we pick up on energy and stuff. We can usually spot things that other people may not. And even when we spot things or we pick up on something, we may not say anything either. Because just because we know it doesn't mean we will automatically volunteer the information. That, oh, well, I know that you're trying to pull a fast one, or I know you're doing this, or I know you're doing that. It's not always that serious. But for my intuition, for whatever reason, over the years, I've always had the ability to just know things. Even when I don't ask for stuff. Stuff just comes to me. Even when I don't ask for it. So, I started doing the tarot card readings and whatnot, and then, because I enjoy tarot card readings, but knowing stuff. And I'll give you an example, and not to get too political, because that's the one thing we really don't talk about on this channel, because this is a safe zone here, because everyone's always talking about politics, and it's kind of like, yeah, let's find a place where we don't talk about politics. However, I have to bring this up, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because it goes with what I'm about to talk about. If you're familiar with the Supreme Court, there was a Supreme Court justice by the name of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. They would call her RBG, or the Notorious RBG, sort of like a play off of the Notorious B.I.G. And she was very, 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 for those who followed politics, and even for those who didn't follow politics, most people knew who Ruth Bader Ginsburg was. Well, in 2020, mind you, she had been battling cancer for a while. I was not checking for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I wasn't really checking for any of the Supreme Court justices, because I'm usually doing my own thing, is what I'm doing. However, I'm going back to, and there's a point to this. However, with the random stuff, just like I was doing a reading, I think it was for Scorpio. It might have been for Scorpio or Virgo, I think. But something random just came out that I said during the reading, and I'm like, where the hell did that come from? You know, like, why? What was that for? That happened with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Mind you, I was not checking for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Not that I don't like her or anything like that. It's just, I'm usually consumed with the things that's going on in my life. I don't check for specific people all the time. One of the things I always tell people, I'm usually minding my business. The only time I'm not minding my business is when I'm forced not to mind my business, where if I have to cover a story or do this or do that or whatever. But for the most part, I mind my business. So out the blue, a voice said to me, and this was in 2020, Ruth Bader Ginsburg will not be on the Supreme Court by the time the election gets here. A voice said that to me. I was just like, why would I hear that? You know, I kid you not. It was either 2 or 3 days later. That's when they said Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. I don't have any reason to make this up. So it's things like that. I told the story before to my longtime listeners who already know. My mother had told me that my nephew decided to start playing an instrument. And my mother called me and she's like, guess what instrument he decided to start playing? A voice said to me, the violin. So I repeated what I heard. And I said to my mother, the violin. And my mother paused. And she said, how did you know that? I was like, she's like, that's not an instrument people usually choose to play. You know, even though we have plenty of violin players, but when it comes to kids, that's not really their go-to, the violin. And not to go there, but I'm going to go there. It's not really many black kids that you hear, oh, I want to play the violin. No, that's usually not what they run to. Let's just keep it 100. So it's that. There have been other things where I just know stuff. I just do. I don't ask for the information. It just comes to me. So I had a dream back, and I mentioned this, and my longtime listeners know about this. I had a dream probably about a month ago. It's probably been a month now, give or take. And the dream was so over the top, and I mentioned it. I just didn't mention the details, but I mentioned the dream, and I'm not going to go into the details. But I had a dream, and the dream was so over the top. And that's the thing with premonitions and stuff like that. It can be difficult to decipher sometimes as well. It can be difficult to decipher sometimes what's what. And then sometimes you don't know it until it comes to pass. And you're like, okay. But less than a week after I had that dream, because I was like, this dream is too over the top. There is no way. I was like, why would I have this dream? Why would I? Because that's the question I always ask. When I hear things or when I see things, it's like, why would I see this? Why would I hear this? And with that particular dream, I was like, that was just too over the top. And then less than a week later, a diluted version, a watered down version of the dream came to pass, which was pretty much a premonition. That confirmed it was a premonition. So there was something there. So this past Wednesday, and I've been meaning to record this, actually. It was Wednesday morning. I woke up from a dream and I was like, oh, this is a premonition, is what this is. This is a premonition. And not to go into all of the details of what happened during the dream. The only thing I can tell you is I did an episode and my listeners know, and the title of that episode is Keep Your Karma Clean. Because long story short, life is already going to throw stuff at you anyway. It has to, because in order for you to grow, you have to have some discomfort, because, comfort and growth are not friends. So stuff is going to be thrown at you regardless, no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how polite, nice, and, giving and all this other stuff you are. Things are going to be thrown at you regardless. It's just a given, whether you're good or bad. But when I was talking about keeping your karma clean, I was saying, why would you want to add the extra weight of negative karma on top of the stuff that's already going to be thrown at you as you're going throughout life? Okay. So that's mostly what the episode was about. You can go check it out. And that's the other thing too. Shout out to all my listeners that have been going through listening to my old episodes, because I haven't uploaded any episodes this week. And my streaming has stayed pretty consistent. It's kind of grown, actually. And people have been listening to the episodes I just uploaded. And some people are going back and listening to some episodes. Because again, this isn't all about tarot card readings. I have episodes about my daily thoughts, about, like I said, sports, about lifestyle, about wacky news, about regular news, just random things. And I've noticed that people have been going through listening to that. And shout out to Apple Podcasts too. My Apple Podcast listeners has almost doubled. It used to be at 12% at one point in time. I have pressure in my left eye right here. But it used to be at like 12% at one time. Now it's at 17% Apple Podcasts. So 17% of my listeners are listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. So shout out to the Apple Podcast community and everyone else too. I mean, Spotify is still representing 9%. Overcast is at 6%. 5% of the people are just listening on a web browser and doing that. And then the others like 60-something% through other podcast platforms, because this show is on many podcast platforms. But I digress. So if you listen to the Keep Your Karma Clean, that's one of the old episodes. I also said that 2021 will be a year of sowing. And 2022 will be a year of reaping, is what it will be. where people are going to reap what they sow next year. And the dream that I had, the energy that I picked up from it, because you have the physical world, which we're obviously, if you're watching this, you're of the physical world here, and then you have the spirit world. You have good spirits. You can call those your angels. You have spirits that are kind of indifferent. They're just around and stuff. And this is another thing too. I try not to get so connected with the spirits because it's not my thing. I just prefer to pick up on the energy. I'm not trying to be like a medium, if that makes sense. There's a difference between reading energy and being a medium. A medium is a whole nother ball game. And yes, I do hear stuff from time to time, which like I know things, but I'm not trying to be a medium. Like, no, divine, I'm not the one. I don't mind a little whisper from time to time and picking up on the energy and the intuition and all that stuff. But the medium thing, I'm not about that life. I'm just not. But I digress. Back to what I was saying. You have spirits who are indifferent. They're just chill. And then you have other spirits who are malevolent. And you might want to call them the demons and stuff. The energy that I picked up in the message that I picked up from the dream that I had was that the spirit world, the indifferent spirits and the good spirits, the malevolent spirits, that's whatever. But the ones who are usually indifferent and the ones who are good spirits, they are not happy. They are disturbed. The reason that they are disturbed, and I'm just going by the energy that I picked up from this dream. That's it. You know, if this resonates with you, like I always say with the tarot card reading and anything else I say, if it resonates with you, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I'm just telling you what came to me and how I'm interpreting the energy as. They are not happy. The biggest reason they are not happy, because mind you, usually spirits take a hands-off approach, just like the divine, the one, the source, God, Jehovah, Allah, whatever you want to call him, the light, takes a hands-off approach. Only getting involved when asked, for the most part. We can dive into the weeds and the details on another day. But for the most part, hands-off approach. The energy I picked up is that a lot of them are ready to intervene. And they're ready to do it through people in the physical world. Where it's almost like, I think of the movie Ghost. In a way, I don't know if you haven't seen the movie Ghost, it's with Whoopi Goldberg, Demi Moore, and Patrick Swayze. And there was this thing where she was, in the room and talking and stuff, and all of those ghosts were lined up and everything. And one of them kind of took over her body for a quick second without her permission. In that, the energy that I'm picking up, you know how you see these stories like on Discovery or documentaries about people and they're like, we don't know what went wrong. They were so regular. They worked a regular job. They did this. They had the kids and all of this other stuff. And then all of a sudden they just snapped. And they comb through every single thing in their life, in the person's life, to find out what made them just go off the rails. And in some cases, I'd almost say in a lot of cases, they were not able to find that pattern where this is what did it. This is what created this personality. My intuition, my interpretation is that the flesh is already willing because the flesh is weak. The flesh and the spirit are two different things. So if the flesh is weak and the spirit is weak, it can be corrupted by other things. And maybe, again, it can be, because corruption can have a negative connotation. So let me withdraw the word corruption. I was about to say hijacked, but that has a negative connotation. Let me say this. It can be open to suggestion. There we go. It can, the flesh, and if the flesh is weak and the spirit is weak, you can find yourself open to suggestion. The reason I don't want to use a word that has a negative connotation is because if you're praying to the divine and to the angels and you're like, hey, I'm trying to beat this addiction, or hey, I'm weak in this area of my life, can you give me strength? Then you're asking for them to intervene. You're asking for the angels in the spirits to help you. That's a good intervention where they're giving you strength to get through something. You then have the other situation where the flesh is weak and the spirit is weak. And the spirit is a lost soul in the physical world, in a physical body. And you have other parties that might want to come in because at that moment, that lost soul is open to suggestion. Is open to suggestion. I'm telling you that the spirits who are becoming upset, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, really. They are mostly upset because there's so much evil going on in this world right now. So much evil, as in pure evil. And I don't want people to take that word lightly, because evil is used a lot. And I know when a word is used a lot, it can dilute the value. However, there are things happening in this world. And again, I'm just the messenger. That's all I am. I'm not a saint. And I don't consider myself a prophet either. You know, I don't. I thought about doing an episode about that for my daily thought. I'm just telling people the information that I get. That's all I'm doing. I'm telling people the information that I get. So their biggest issue is that there's all this evil going on in the world and not enough people are speaking up against the evil. So many people are staying silent against the evil that's going on in the world. And I'm not talking about one specific thing either. I'm talking about many different things. All of this evil, all of this corruption, all of the lies, all of this stuff that's going on in the world. It's almost like people won't say, hey, that's not right. Even if they say it online. Say it online. Or say it in person. Or say it somewhere. Just, it doesn't hurt to say that's That's not right. Or to tap someone on the shoulder that you may know personally and be like, I think there's a better way to go about this. And I'm not saying that you need to get out and start marching in the street. And I'm not saying you need to put on, knight's armor with a cross on it, grab your sword and your shield and become a crusader. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that something is going to have to give. Something's going to have to give. And usually people know when something isn't right. No matter how, what's the word I'm looking for? Universe, I need some help. What's the word I'm looking for? No matter how distant they may feel from the divine, where they feel their connection is not that strong. No matter how weak the connection, thank you for helping me articulate that. No matter how distant they feel they are from the divine, or how weak they feel their connection to the divine is, you will still usually know. I've always said this on my show, or show, throughout the episodes. Because when you're born into the physical world, you're automatically connected to the divine because your spirit comes from the source. So you're automatically connected whether you want to be or not. There's always going to be a connection, even if you don't want to be bothered with the divine. If you feel if you're an atheist, doesn't matter. There's always going to be a connection, whether you believe in the divine or you're like, nope, after all this stuff, I've done my research. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe in Jehovah. I don't believe in Yahweh. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. It doesn't matter what you believe. It's not going to cut that connection. That connection is unbreakable. It's uncuttable. I believe cuttable is a word. We can look it up later. You can't do anything with that. Now, will the connection be as strong when you're in that mindset? No, it's not going to be as strong. But it's still not broken. The connection is not broken because it's unbreakable. The connection is very weak because you're in that mindset. But the connection is there. And that connection is usually what lets people know when something is a little off, when something migrates over to the territory of evil. And for those who just can't see it, that might be because, going back to what I said before, their flesh was already weak. Their spirit was already weak. So they were open to be influenced by the wrong spirit or spirits. And they've already fallen into that evil category. So evil is, if they're already in that energy, it would be difficult for them to spot it out because it's sort of like seeing the forest for the trees. They're not going to see it. Even though that connection is still there, whether they want it or not, to the divine. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can be the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. The connection's not going anywhere. It just isn't. That's why in the Bible, it always says that you can always repent and so on and so forth for those who are into the Bible. Other people believe other things. My thing is that something just said to me, you can always come home. And that's what the divine is. That's what the source is. That's what God is home. And you can always come home, no matter how far out in the world, you are. And the divine is not expecting perfection. Again, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. If you're in the flesh, there isn't any perfection. I remember I was listening to this tarot card reader. She does readings for cancers only, for the sign of Cancer only. And it's True Water Intuition. So if you're a Cancer, or even if you're not a Cancer, you should check out her readings. Her readings are amazing. True, her name is True. And on the True Water Intuition channel, one thing that she said one time, she said, you can't have one or the other. You have to have the light and the dark. Because she said, your spirit is the light. Your flesh is the dark. You can't have one without the other. Here, for the most part. Meaning that if you have light, you're always going to have darkness. Now, can your spirit survive without the flesh? Yes. Can your flesh survive without the spirit? No. But when it comes to light and dark, there's always going to be that. It's always going to exist. There isn't a thing where you can just eradicate all darkness or you can eradicate all light. It's not going to happen. And I'll just give you an example. Just like with the sun, because we're in sunny Los Angeles. At nighttime, you don't see much. It's dark. But when the sun comes out and it illuminates things, and you see things clearly, guess what else you see? You see shadows. The darkness is still there. You can't, darkness will always exist as long as there is light. However, in this dream that I had, the issue in the spirit world, the energy that I was picking up, is that there was a frustration with them and kids are outside playing if you happen to hear that too. Because, I mean, Los Angeles. But spirits are frustrated mostly because there is a ridiculous amount of evil going on in the world on such a nefarious level. And not enough people are speaking up. Don't be surprised if they start to intervene. Don't be surprised. Some people may already be open to suggestion. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a thing where someone is open to suggestion and then it goes totally negative. It doesn't have to be like that. Something just said to me, and I'm going to go ahead and say it because it's on my spirit. What I am saying and what was just said to me is, don't be surprised if people become more bold, where people rise up and put their foot down. And they're like, no, we're not doing this. It's almost like, what's her name? Oh, gosh. I can never pronounce her name right. Ayana Van Zant, when she did that thing, Not on My Watch, it's almost on that level where certain people will rise up and it's going to be a straight up, not on my watch. You're not going to do this, is what's going to happen. Don't be surprised if more of that starts happening. And what I'm telling you is that I believe when that happens and more of those type of people start to make themselves known, it isn't just them standing up straight, standing in their truth. It is a spirit behind them, working hand in hand with them, holding them up, giving them the courage, giving them the strength to give a hard no. Not just like, oh, well, no, we shouldn't and da-da. No, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be a hard no. As in, Look, I'm not saying I'm feeling froggy. I'm just saying I'm not moving. It's going to be in that type of energy. And that type of energy is going to occur because of some of these spirits in the spirit world where they're like, enough is enough. Because that's the energy I'm picking up with all of this evil going on in the world. It's like enough is enough. And again, this isn't a thing where the spirit world is looking to vanquish all evil, because it's not going to happen. You can't vanquish all good. You can't vanquish all evil. It's not going to happen. I remember one of the best quotes I ever heard, it's funny to me, was on the X-Men cartoon. He said it was Apocalypse. And he said to Cable, because Cable had been trying to kill Apocalypse. And Apocalypse had said to him, he said, I'm not malevolent, I just am. Which, that was Apocalypse saying, I am malevolence itself. I'm not malevolent, I just am. That is what he is. It basically saying, I'm not going to be sunshine and rainbows. I'm always going to be like this. Nothing is changing. This is the energy. I am malevolence incarnate, which I thought was kind of funny. So, yeah. But you have that type of situation where there's some energy that's just bad energy. And it's always going to be like that. And you'll never be able to extinguish all of it. And I don't even want to say extinguish, because extinguish can have a negative connotation to it as well. I will also say you won't be able to convert, because again, going back to what I said at the beginning, or earlier, not the very beginning, but earlier, you can always come home. That's the thing is really ringing in my head right now. So apparently I need to make this point. You can always come home back to the divine. So for those who are in that malevolent energy, some of them might be able to be converted and see like, wow, oh my goodness, I can't believe I was doing that. That happened. I mean, you heard stories like that in the Bible all the time. The divine used murderers and all types of people in the Bible, and they became prophets and all types of stuff. This is not a Sunday school lesson. We're not going there today. The point is, and I was told to say it again, you can always come home. As for the spirit world, they're just irritated that people are just so silent with all of this evil happening in the world. So I just wanted to deliver that message from the dream that I had based off of the intuition and everything else, and let you know. And again, if this resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, not your cup of tea, that's fine. It wasn't meant for you. So that's where we're at. Now, let me do the updates real quick before this goes over an hour, because I want to upload this to Instagram. So as for updates, I'm not doing the love readings in August. I'm working on something else. I will tell you what it is after I finish it. And I will finish it. I'm determined. So I'm going to finish it. Getting that done. I will do a reading for the collective. I think I'm going to title that reading for the collective Still Standing, because I feel like a lot of people are in that energy, especially now that we're in Leo season. A lot of people I'm adjusting in my chair, but to be more detailed, I'm adjusting my underwear because they're getting on my nerves. Oh, glory be. All right. So the month of August, and we're already in Leo season because we're at the end of July right now. There's a lot of energy that is happening now. And I feel a lot of people have been through so much. And people are looking back at the things that they've been through and they're like, wow, I'm still standing. If you listen to that, there's a song by Monica Call, Still Standing. You should listen to that song. I honestly feel a lot of people on the collective level are in that energy. Especially, and if they're not, they're going to be in the month of August. A lot of people are going to be popping their collar in the month of August. A lot of people are going to, like Kevin Hart says, say it with your chest. A lot of people are going to be saying it with their chest in the month of August. So, because there's going to be a lot of energy that's going on. So yeah, I'll do a reading for the collective, and I will more than likely do the readings, the general readings for the 12 signs. That is my goal. I'll know for sure by Monday is what I will do. I'll know for sure by Monday. But that's the update on that. The love readings will not be happening in August. I don't have the bandwidth. I really, really don't. I need to dedicate some bandwidth to some other things. So, but I will definitely do a reading for the collective, which is called For Anyone Who Needs to Hear, is that reading. And I'm 95% sure it'll be titled Still Standing. Also, before I go, because I'm going to have to go because it's almost at an hour. One other thing, I meant to tell you this too. And usually I say this during the reading for the collective, but I'm going to say it now. I also had a dream as well. For those of you, take what resonates. For those of you who partake in things that can mess with your senses, whether it is drugs, marijuana, drinking, pills, what have you, be very mindful of who you are around. And especially the people who you would think that, oh, they would never take advantage of me. Where you're like, oh, I've been friends with this person since 5th grade. Or I've known this person for, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. Or this person has never done me wrong. They would never do. And I'm not telling you this to make you paranoid. I'm telling you this to make you aware. Is what I'm doing. Again, I'm not telling this to make you paranoid. I'm telling you this to make you aware. So just keep that in mind. And again, take what resonates on that. Because I had that dream too a few nights ago, and something told me to convey that message as well. Just be careful who you drink with. Be careful who you do other things with. If you do other things, I'm not judging. As you know, if you're new to this podcast, this is a no judgment zone. I don't judge people for what they do. I've dealt with, if you only knew, my memoir would be something else. If you only knew the types I've dealt with throughout my lifetime. So yeah, I'm not judging when it comes to that. Do you. Now, I will have an opinion. I'm just not judging. Now, judging and opinion are two different things regardless of what the definition in Webster's dictionary says. And if you want to know my thoughts on judging versus opinion, scroll through all of my episodes, and it's one of those episodes buried in there somewhere. It's judging versus opinion, or opinion versus judging. It was a daily thought or something like that. Just scroll through, and eventually you'll find it. It's one of the old ones. And like I said, people have been listening to my old episodes, and thank you for that as well. And you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't judge people because no one knows anyone's situation. I don't know your situation. You don't know my situation. Regardless of how much stuff I tell you, or regardless of how much stuff someone tells me, I still don't know their situation. Therefore, who am I to judge? It's not my place. There's only one judge, and I'm not it, and neither are you. So there's that part. But as I said before, be mindful of who you drink with or do anything else with. I don't care how long you have known them. Be mindful of that. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Okay. Also, I plan on working on 2 other episodes. So I will hope to get those up maybe tomorrow. That's the goal. We'll see what happens. But I wanted to get this one done and out the way. Thank you again to everyone who's been listening to the podcast. You especially shout out to the Middle East, man. I'm always thrown for a loop when I think about that. But yeah, shout out to the Middle East. But okay, let me get going. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. KIRWKC on all the social media platforms. Until next time, be blessed.